I had shared. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, so this particular structure shows the parts of the leaf. This is the stem, the open space which is there, that is the lamina. Okay, this pointed part is the apex, the centermost region, that is the midrib. Many branches are moving from this particular region, that are the veins, and other branches which are seen on the lamina, that is nothing but the veinlets or venules. Now veins are the part of vascular bundles. Okay, now this entire region, this is called as the margin. Okay, and this small part, that is nothing but the petiole of a particular leaf which is attached to the stem. Okay, I have also shared a video wherein I've talked about raw materials. Now we all know that plants prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Okay, we are also aware of the photosynthetic reaction, that is the reactant, that is carbon dioxide and water, okay, in the presence of light and chlorophyll, will form something which is called as glucose, with the liberation of oxygen as well as water. Okay, that is 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of light and chlorophyll will form C6H12O6, that is glucose, plus 6O2, okay, plus 6 water molecule, that is H2O. This is what is called as a photosynthetic reaction. Okay, now these photosynthetic reaction has certain events, okay, and these events are based on the raw materials which are being used up by a particular organism. Now, as we have already seen that the living organisms require n number of raw materials for maintaining their life and for sustaining their life. Okay, out of that, there are many required raw materials, okay, which are required by the plants and animals. Okay, the important raw materials are oxygen, water, vitamins, minerals, carbon dioxide, food, etc. A clear, detailed explanation of this is given in the video which I shared. Okay, but there are certain events that take place in the process of photosynthesis. What are those events? Why do they take place? Okay, these events are at most essential for the plant to carry forward the entire process. And for that, the entire leaf has some modified structures. Okay, now these events include trapping light energy, taking light energy from the sunlight, okay, and converting that particular light energy into chemical energy. Now, when this light energy is trapped, okay, there are certain specialized part, okay, which receives maximum of this particular light, which is that we will see in a minute. Okay, so the very first event is to take in light energy and converting that particular light energy into chemical energy. Now, when the light energy or solar energy gets converted into chemical energy, the splitting, okay, splitting of water molecule takes place. Okay, oxidation of carbon dioxide takes place. Now, water molecule gets splitted up to form hydrogen and oxygen, whereas carbon dioxide gets oxidized to form something which is called as a carbohydrate, that is glucose, that is RC6H12O6, okay, which is the product which is formed. And this is formed by a process which is called as glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis is a process of breaking the glucose. Glyco means glucose and lysis means splitting. Okay, so in our body, in a plant's body, in a higher organism's body, splitting of glucose is a very important step. That is a process which provides energy to the living organisms in the form of ATP. So this glucose is formed as a product. When it is formed as a product, when light energy gets converted into chemical energy, okay, and oxidation of carbon dioxide takes place, okay, splitting of water takes place. Okay, now here, okay, here this is the cross section of a particular leaf. Okay, if I take a particular cross section of a leaf, I'll be able to see this upper layer. I hope this is clear. This upper layer, this lower layer. In between upper and the lower layer, there are mesophilic cells. Okay, now what is the use of this mesophilic cells? These mesophilic cells form the ground tissue. Okay, and as far as mesophilic cells are concerned, they are the site of photosynthetic activity or photosynthesis. Okay, this upper epidermis is very thin, it is transparent. So easily the light falls on that upper epidermis and enter into the leaf surface or within the leaves, so that photosynthetic process can carry on in a smoother way. Okay, so this is the entire cross section. This is upper epidermis, this is the lower epidermis, and in between the upper and lower epidermis, there are mesophilic cells, okay, which forms ground tissue, the main tissue. Okay, now here, the upper epidermis, you can see an outer layer, okay, which covers the upper epidermis. It forms cuticle. Cuticle means a protective layer, and here the upper epidermis is made up of a waxy cuticle. Why waxy cuticle? Because it contains a particular substance, and the name of that substance, remember, it is suberin. S-U-B-E-R-I-N. It is suberin. And this suberin forms a waxy cuticle, because of which evaporation of water, excess evaporation, okay, of water does not occur. So the cuticle, the presence of a waxy cuticle, prevent the upper epidermis from drying up. Understanding? Upper epidermis, it is made up of thin, transparent cells, okay, and that particular transparent cells allows the entry of light. Okay, below the upper epidermis, there are, as I said, layer of mesophilic cells. Now, these mesophilic cells are divided into two types. Okay, the upper mesophilic cells are called palisade mesophilic cells. Okay, they are columnar in structure. Okay, they are column-like. Okay, in 9th standard we have studied columnar epithelial cells. Okay, so same way they are pillar-like, they are column-like cells, and they have maximum chloroplast. Okay, they increase the surface area because of their columnar shape. They increase the surface area, okay, for taking in that particular light. Okay, so I can say palisade mesophilic cells have maximum area for receiving the light. Okay, that is sunlight. Okay, now below that particular palisade mesophilic cells, there are spongy mesophilic cells. Now, spongy mesophilic cells have irregular shape. Okay, they have very little, very less chloroplast. Chloroplast is a structure, okay, which has chlorophyll pigment. We will come to it later on. Okay, so this is spongy mesophilic cells, and these spongy mesophilic cells have air spaces in between them. Now, what is the use of these air spaces? Okay, now these air spaces help in proper diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Proper exchange, okay, of gases takes place, diffusion takes place. Okay, below the spongy mesophilic cell, there is lower epidermis. Okay, and this is a region which has maximum structures called stomata. Okay, and this stomata is surrounded by some specialized cells, and these cells are called guard cells. Okay, so I can say the cross section, the entire cross section of a particular leaf. Okay, this is the parts of the leaf, and if the cross section of this leaf is taken, it will be visible under the microscope like this. Okay, it will have an upper epidermis, okay, which is thin, which is transparent. Upper epidermis is covered by a waxy cuticle, and this waxy cuticle contains a substance called as Suberin. Remember, this was asked in MCQ. Okay, suberin, and because of the presence of suberin, it is waxy. Why it is waxy? To prevent the evaporation or excess evaporation of water through the surface of that particular leaf. Now, below the upper epidermis, there are mesophilic cells. Why? What are mesophilic cells? They form the ground tissue, and these mesophilic cells are the site of photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis activity or photosynthetic activities go on smoothly because of the presence of this mesophilic cells. Okay? Now, there are basically two types of mesophilic cells: palisade mesophilic cells and spongy mesophilic cells. Palisade mesophilic cells, they are column-like, and hence they are made up of columnar cells. Okay, they increase the surface area for absorption of light. Okay, so the light will fall. When the light falls, upper epidermis is transparent. It will fall easily on the palisade mesophilic cells. They have maximum chloroplast. Okay, now if you see the chloroplast, this is the structure of chloroplast, simple structure. Okay, you can see here some structures. Okay, they are called grana. We have already done this just for your revision. This is grana, and they are formed from many disc-like structures. It is grana wherein the synthesis of chlorophyll takes place. Okay, so the green pigment which is synthesized in the chloroplast, that is synthesized actually in the grana. You can see some lines, some connections, okay, which connects the grana. They are called lamellae. All right. So, palisade mesophilic cells, they have maximum chloroplast. Below that layer, there are spongy mesophilic cells. Spongy mesophilic cells have irregular. Okay, they are irregular and they are smaller as compared to palisade mesophilic cells. And they have air spaces in between so that proper diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen takes place. Below the mesophilic layer, there is a lower epidermis. Okay, and this particular lower epidermis has maximum stomata. Actually, stomata is present on both the sides, but lower epidermis, how to find the lower epidermis? If you take a particular leaf, say beetle leaf, if you tear it, okay, you get to see a transparent white layer. That is the lower epidermis. And if that particular region is taken and observed under microscope, you will be able to see n number of beautiful kidney-shaped and dumbbell-shaped structures. They are nothing but the stomata. Okay. Now, this stomata is maximum. Remember this word. Stomata is maximum in the lower epidermal region or lower epidermis. And stomata is surrounded by some special cells. Okay, they are guard cells. Okay, this is how a stomata looks. I've taken the structure of an open stomata. Okay, now they have guard cells. Okay, now the main function of this particular stomata is exchange of gases, okay, and water. Now, if maximum water enters inside the guard cell, the guard cells, what they will do? They bulge out. Okay, now when they bulge out, the stomata opens up. Okay, if it is like this, the stomata will open up. And when there is no water, the guard cells shrink, and when the guard cells shrink, the stomata closes. Stomata will never remain open continuously. Stomata will open only when there is requirement of carbon dioxide by the plants. So when the plants require carbon dioxide, the stomatal region, the guard cells open. Okay, the carbon dioxide as well as the water will enter inside. Okay, the stomatal layer will open up, guard cells bulge out, swell out. Okay, and oxygen is liberated out to the stomatal pores. Okay, when water is gone out, the guard cells shrink, and when the guard cells shrink, the stomata closes. Now, this mechanism is not the same in every plant. Okay, we know xerophytes or desert plants. Desert plants have opposite mechanism. Understanding? They take in carbon dioxide during the night time, night hours. All right. Usually, normal plants take carbon dioxide during the photosynthetic process, that is, during the presence of light. Okay, they take carbon dioxide, they give oxygen. But xerophytes or desert plants, okay, they are living in a particular region in a condition where availability of water is very less. So what they do, okay, their reactions and their mechanisms are slightly different. Of course, you don't have detail of that to study in 10th standard. Okay, so they have a different mechanism. Remember, they take carbon dioxide during the night hours and they store it to form an intermediate product. And this product gets activated, okay, during the daytime when the energy absorbed by the chlorophyll is being used up. Okay, so सुबह के टाइम जब फोटोसिंथेसिस होता है, ओके, सो ये जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड स्टोर किया होता है रात के टाइम पे जेरोफाइट्स ने, डेजर्ट प्लांट्स ने, वो यूज अप होता है. कैसे यूज अप होता है? With the help of chlorophyll pigment, with the help of light energy that falls on the chloroplast, and chlorophyll pigment is synthesized. When that is synthesized, whole reaction takes place, okay, and splitting takes place, and again the plant functions properly. Based on that, okay, there are two types of organisms. We know, okay, autotrophs and heterotrophs. Okay, and autotrophs are basically divided into photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs, and hence there are two processes which takes place in plants: photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. Chemo means chemicals, photo means light. So the process which takes place in the presence of light is called photosynthesis. Okay, and the process that takes place with the help of certain chemicals, that is called chemosynthesis. Okay, now here basically in this chapter we are completely focusing on the first process, that is the nutrition. Now what is nutrition? All living organisms prepare their food. Not all living organisms, but here we are talking first about plants. Okay, most of the living organisms prepare their own food. Some of them depend upon another organism for their survival. Okay, whether directly or indirectly, if the organism prepare their food and split that food, okay, there's complex food into simple food, in order to utilize it by their body by many biochemical reactions. In other words, I can say nutrition is a process by which the living organisms, whether directly or indirectly, take in nutrients, absorb the nutrients, split them into simpler forms, okay, so that they can utilize that can be utilized by their body. That process is called nutrition. And what is required for nutrition? Set of biochemical reactions. Okay, now basically there are two types or modes of nutrition which are there: autotrophic mode of nutrition and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic mode of nutrition is further divided into photosynthetic mode and chemosynthetic mode. And the organisms which prepare their food in the presence of light, they are called photoautotrophs. And the organism which do not prepare their food in the presence of light, that means they make use of chemicals, they are called chemoautotrophs. And of course, autotrophic mode of nutrition, we know the process by which organisms prepare their own food by making use of certain raw materials from the environment. That's called autotrophism. Okay, and the organisms are called autotrophs. Now, autotrophs basically they require chlorophyll pigment. If there is no chlorophyll pigment, if there is no chloroplast, the autotrophs are not able to prepare their own food because they won't be able to trap the light energy, take in the sunlight and prepare their food. So, chlorophyll is a very essential factor as far as autotrophic organisms are concerned. They do not digest their food. Okay, they are directly taking in the food material. Okay, they are preparing their food. They are the producers. So they do not digest the food. There is no need of any digestive mechanism for their food. It is directly utilized. Okay. Now, as far as heterotrophs are concerned, the organism which depend on autotrophs or which cannot prepare their own food and depend on another organism for their food requirement, they are called heterotrophs. Okay, and the mode of nutrition is called heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, now when I talk about heterotrophs, they don't have any chlorophyll pigment because they are not preparing their own food. Okay, they don't have any type of pigments or any chlorophyll pigment. Okay, or chloroplast is not present. Chloroplast is a specialized character and it is present only in plants which prepare their own food. Okay, they have specific mechanism of digesting their food. They split complex material into simple one. Okay, so metabolic activities takes place at a very high rate in heterotrophs and not in the autotrophs. Okay, now heterotrophic mode of nutrition is further divided into saprophytic mode of nutrition, parasitic mode of nutrition, and holozoic mode of nutrition. Now, as far as saprophytic mode of nutrition are concerned, saprophytes, okay, the organisms which take their food, okay, or consume their food from dead and decaying organic matter, they are called saprophytes. Okay, and the particular mode of nutrition is called saprophytic mode of nutrition. Parasites. Okay, a parasite is a particular organism which dwells within the body, enters into the body of a particular organism, another organism. And the body in which this particular parasite enters, that is called as a host body. So parasite will enter into the host body. It will dwell, it will take all the nourishment and nutrition from the host body and utilize it for its growth. Okay, holozoic mode of nutrition means, okay, the entire food requirement is done by ingestion of food. Okay, we will be seeing this in detail in the next class as far as amoeba is concerned. So holozoic mode of nutrition, what happens in holozoic mode of nutrition? Ingestion of whole of the food material takes place to the body of that particular organism. Okay, so nutrition is a particular process by which living organisms take in the food, split them, okay, the complex food gets splitted up to simple food by certain reactions, and these reactions are called biochemical reaction. Okay, and the nutrition is basically divided into two types: autotrophic mode of nutrition and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic mode of nutrition means the organism which can prepare their own food in the presence of light. They are green in color as they contain chlorophyll pigment. There is no requirement of digestion of food as far as autotrophs are concerned. There are basically two types of autotrophs: photoautotrophs, chemoautotrophs. And the processes are photosynthesis and chemosynthesis respectively. Photoautotrophs prepare their food in the presence of light, and chemoautotrophs prepare food by making use of some chemicals, okay, and whatever they prepare, that is stored as an intermediate, and in the next photosynthetic reaction, next photosynthetic process, okay, they use the energy from the sunlight, it is absorbed by the chlorophyll pigment, and the process goes on smoothly. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition is a type of nutrition wherein the organisms directly or indirectly depend upon autotrophs. They are the producers. Autotrophs are the producers. So heterotrophs, sorry, depend upon autotrophs for their food requirement. Okay, the mode of nutrition is called heterotrophic mode of nutrition. There are three types, basic types of heterotrophs. Saprophytes, which dwell on dead and decaying organic matter for their food requirement. Okay, parasites, which enter into the body of a host organism, take all nourishment from the host organism, and their growth takes place with that particular host organism's body. Okay, holozoic mode of nutrition, whole of the food is taken in by a process called ingestion. So complete food is taken in through a process called ingestion. In the next class, we will be studying in detail about holozoic mode of nutrition in amoeba and nutrition in human beings with a diagram. Okay. Now, these are the mode of nutrition. Now, we have seen that autotrophs or plants make use of raw materials like carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, light, that is sunlight, etc. But there are certain other materials which are also used up by the plants by different mechanisms. Okay, for example, imagine the roots are directly attached to the soil. Okay, so water, minerals, and what all other vitamins and nutrients are required, that will be taken in through the root. Okay, it is pushed on to the entire part of that particular plant body with the help of vascular bundle vessels, xylem specifically. Of course, details later on when we'll come to the vascular bundles. Okay, whereas the food is synthesized on the leaf, phloem transports that food to each and every part, which we'll be learning in transportation topic. Okay, so thus water, minerals, vitamins, nutrients, everything is taken in with the help of root from the soil. Okay, nitrogen requirement. Okay, that particular nitrogen requirement of a plant, of an organism, is satisfied either from the soil in the form of nitrates and nitrites. Okay, or through a particular bacteria. Okay, we know that there are a lot of bacteria like Rhizobium, Nostoc, Anabaena, Azotobacter. In 8th standard, we have seen this. Okay, so these nitrogen fixing bacteria act on the root nodules of leguminous plants and help in fixing nitrogen. That is another way to fix nitrogen. There is one more way of fixing nitrogen, that is through lightening process of atmosphere. The lightening, the natural lightening process, okay, fix nitrogen in the soil, it gets converted into nitrates and nitrites, and that is being utilized by the plant for its growth. All right, so this is a way how the plants take in nourishment. So today, what all things we have seen? We have seen the structure of a particular leaf. It has a particular stem. The region which gets attached to the stem is the petiole. The open space is nothing but the lamina. There is a central partition which moves and divides the leaf into two, that is the midrib. This particular region, it is called as apex or the tip. This entire region is called as leaf base, okay, or the margin of the leaf. There are certain branches coming on either side of the midrib, that are the veins, okay, which forms the or part of the vascular bundles. Smaller branches are there, and these smaller branches are called as venules or veinlets. Okay, we have seen cross section of the leaf. This is asked for 1 or 2 marks, and this time you can expect this, okay, question, because it's very easy to remember. Okay, now this is the cross section of the leaf. It has upper epidermis. Upper epidermis is thin and transparent. It is covered with a waxy cuticle. And what is the name of the substance present on the waxy cuticle? Suberin. Suberin. Question, this will surely come for MCQ. Okay. So this particular region, it is having a waxy coating, and this is called cuticle. Remember, cuticle is a covering, a layer, a coating. Okay. Now below the upper epidermis, there are mesophilic cells between upper and lower epidermis. Mesophilic cells, they form the ground tissue. They are the site for photosynthesis. They help in photosynthesis. Okay. They are divided into two types of cells. Remember, learn here itself. Okay. Palisade cells, palisade mesophilic cells. Okay. They are columnar cells, pillar-like cells. Because they are pillar-like cells, they will have maximum chloroplast. Okay. And they increase the surface area for absorption of light. So when the light falls on the leaf, it will fall on the upper epidermis. Okay. Transparent, upper epidermis is transparent. So it will fall here on the palisade. It has maximum chloroplast. Okay. Now below that, palisade mesophilic cell, there are spongy mesophilic cells. Okay. Now this spongy mesophilic cell, as the name suggests, they are sponge-like. Sorry. And they have air spaces in between. What is the use of air space? It helps in proper diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay. Now they are smaller as compared to palisade mesophilic cells. Okay. Now below the spongy layer of mesophilic cell, there is lower epidermis, and this lower epidermis will contain n number of stomata. Stomata opens when water enter the guard cells surrounding the stomata. Guard cells swell up and stomata open. Okay, when water exit the guard cells along with oxygen, okay, oxygen is given off now, carbon dioxide is taken, and that given off oxygen is utilized by us, and we give carbon dioxide. Okay, so this particular stomata opens when water enters the guard cells swell up, and when the water exit along with oxygen, the guard cells shrink. Okay, and stomata close. So swollen guard cells, open stomata. Shrunken guard cells, closed stomata. Okay. Now all the plants will not open their stomata during the daytime. There are some plants which does this during the night hours, specifically called xerophytes, or they are the desert plants. Okay. Now this is the entire structure. Now let me tell you here one particular thing. Okay. Now if the leaf is broader, okay, there are maximum stomata on that particular leaf. If the leaf is narrow, okay, there are minimum stomata on that particular surface of that particular leaf. Okay, now if you see any leaf, let's take hibiscus leaf. Okay, I have shared the pictures and the video of the leaf also. Please go through the parts of that leaf. Okay, so some leaves have broader surface area, some leaves have narrow surface area. If the surface area is broader, it has maximum stomata. If the surface area is narrow, it has minimum stomata. Okay, not only that, if the surface area is broader, the stomatal shape, okay, will be kidney shape. I'll be going in detail of this when I'll be ending of this chapter. Okay,